that. So it'll prevent, slip ups from occurring as well. Just giving you that reminder and giving you that process to help you make sure you're doing what you need to do.
Nice.
So any questions on the databases or the shipment log feature before we move on to the Easy Start tab?
No.
Okay. So what I've been showing you so far is mostly just the databases which come into play when you're on Easy Start, and I'll show you how they do. So if I were to create a new shipment, I would just click the New button. It'll create a fresh shipment, 1586. And now if we go into this contact screen, all these fields, they're just going to be blank because we just started from scratch. Now I could manually type this information into all these fields, but that's going to be very time consuming and also open to making typos. So if I just click Add Contact from Database, it'll bring me to my exporters database, and then I could just select the one that I need, for the US one. Click Add Contact, and it'll just fill in whatever data we've already stored for that contact. So you don't have to type anything, you're just doing a couple button clicks, and you can do that for each contact. You don't have to fill out each one if you don't, like if there's no billing address separate from the consignee, you could leave that blank. If you don't have an intermediate consignee, you can leave that blank. If you right click in this box here, there's other situational contacts, like for free trade agreement certificates and other types of contacts that you might need for other forms. But we'll just assume that we need these first four for now, so I'll finish off by getting my freight forwarder address information in there, and that's all we have to do. And this information will not have to be entered again for this shipment. Now it knows, we have this contact information. This will go on all the documents where it's needed with the right formatting. So the product detail screen is the next step. And this looks a lot like our products database, if you remember, but now we're actually entering the line items on this invoice. So we could click Add New and manually type it if we need to, or we could click Add from Database and save time. So if I click Add from Database, as you see, it just brings me my products database. If I need to select multiple, I can hold down Control, and then hold down Control while I'm clicking, and then click Add Selected Products to Shipment. Now all that product information got pulled in. I can scroll through the products that we've added using these arrows up here. Of course, we need to enter a sales quantity. So if I do enter the sales quantity and tab out, it'll multiply the sales quantity by the unit price to generate our extended price. It'll also multiply the weights if necessary as well.
Oh, wow.
We'll just go through, enter our sales quantities, and we've got our product detail. So these sections down here are situational. You might not always be filling these out. This section is for free trade agreement certificates, like the new USMCA form, which replaced NAFTA. We have updated the software with USMCA forms that we spent a lot of research and time working on and making sure that they were available right from the start of the new USMCA, which came into effect like 2 weeks ago now. Bill of lading, if you need airway bills, dock receipts, inland bills, ocean bills, all of those can be created as well. So just to make a little, so what I'm showing you so far is how you just use it as a standalone. And as you can see, when you're using it by itself, the databases is really where it's at. That's how the software saves you time, is by letting you pull in your contacts and product detail and potentially all these other different information from that databases patch. But if you did set up the ERP integration, what you essentially would be doing is you're mapping fields in your ERP to their corresponding fields in shipping solutions. So there's a tool in the software called, what's that?
Oh, no, I'm just making a comment, just saying,
Oh,
oh, no, that's okay. I can hear my delay.
Speaker or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you go to this admin tab, there you can see there's this thing that says set up a data exchange manager. So the data exchange manager is the name of the tool in the software which lets you integrate with an ERP system. So you could use shipping solutions and still use Epicor, and you could set it up so that every minute or every 5 minutes, shipping solutions will just check Epicor for any new international orders. If it detects a new order, it'll just pull in the data right under this Easy Start tab. So it'll create a new shipment record, in this case 1587, and it'll just fill in all the data on the screen, or whatever data on the screen that you already have in your ERP. So that's something very common among our customers. A lot of customers, increasingly people are using ERP, companies are using ERP systems. So technically, not to get way too in the weeds, but basically the way it works is you can have your ERP system generate text files or XML files or connect with what's called ODBC. Most of our clients find, one way or one of those methods will work easiest for them. Text files tend to be the easiest, but once you set it up, then you would create a Windows service or a script and then run it on a timer. So like I said, every minute or every 5 minutes or whatever time interval you decide on. So, I mean, from what you've seen so far, do you think that would be something important to you, being able to integrate it with Epicor?
Absolutely. It would just be getting management to sign off on it, but definitely, because what we're currently using, it's not really useful. Although the data is in Epicor that we need, but when it comes to producing those documents for our exports, all of those are done manually based off of what's in Epicor at the moment.
Yep, and that's such a common issue with people who are checking out shipping solutions, because there's just data that they just don't have fields for that you need for your export forms. So you end up having to recreate those documents manually, and it's just a big headache. So basically, once you pull it in, once Shipping Solutions has pulled in that order, created a new shipment record, filled out these different screens depending on whatever data you've chosen to pull over, then you can go in and you can fill in the gaps. So like, let's say, maybe we pulled in this product detail data right from our ERP, but maybe the Schedule B code was missing because we didn't have a field in Epicor for that. Then you can fill in the Schedule B after the fact. And even because that was such a common thing, we've included a feature that if you set up, basically you can set it up so that, let's say maybe you don't have a field for your Schedule B in your ERP. Once it gets pulled over, Shipping Solutions can fill in that gap automatically by detecting which product ID is being pulled in. So very flexible how you set it up. That's something very common that people will use. So that way, they're pulling it right from the ERP without having to do any clicking or typing or anything. And then they have all these data fields filled out. And so I think it might be helpful to just go through these 3 screens here as well.
Okay.
I think of these as the core screens up here, so you can just see what data is on here. And again, I'll just go through as if I'm using it as a standalone program, just entering the mode of transport. Again, if you have fields in your ERP for this stuff, you can map it if you need to. But I can also just utilize this carriers database, like maybe my carriers, exporting carrier, just FedEx, I could select it. Inland carrier, if there's one, you can pull from that carriers database as well. You can select your port of export from the US ports database. And the nice thing too is, because bear in mind that you need to indicate some of this information for the AES filing. That's the main reason we have this screen. And it pulls in the carrier and port codes, which is significant because you need to indicate the carrier and port codes in your filing. So that way you don't have to look those up every time. Invoices. So of course your commercial invoice is kind of your standard document going to accompany any shipment. So this section up here is for a pro forma if you need that. This middle section is for the commercial invoice, and this bottom section is information common to both documents. So if you needed to create the invoice, and again, all this data could be coming from your ERP, but just going through it, we'll just enter the date, invoice number. These are 2 free text fields where you can enter any text that you want. The special instructions field shows up kind of in the middle of the page, and the commercial phrase field shows up at the bottom of the page. So maybe for my phrase, I want to put that destination control statement. I could just select it, and it'll fill in that statement. And again, you can put your own statements, custom statements and phrases in this phrases database, and then they'll show up in this list here, and you can select them. So maybe I want to put a customs value only statement as well, because this is a shipment for a trade show, or it's a return for repair purposes. Otherwise, down here is remaining information like the order, PO, terms. You can indicate the Incoterms here. If you don't use Incoterms on this shipment, you don't have to indicate any Incoterms at all, but if you can, or if you do, then you can. Here's for any fees that you might want to break out, like freight and handling and insurance. So those can be added on. Country of destination, state of origin. Invoice currency will default to US dollars, but you can select any other currency. You can also list it in a second currency. So maybe we're shipping to Belgium and I want to put it in euros too. I could select Belgium euro, and if I tab out, it'll pop up with this box where you can enter the current exchange rate so that the price shows up in the correct value in both currencies. And I don't think this is the correct exchange rate, by the way. I think that's just a random number I chose. And then finally, one thing that's pretty nice is you can upload like little scanned images of your employee signatures and logos. So I could select which electronic signature I want to add. If you prefer to handwrite the signature, you can select no signature, and that'll leave that blank. But now we've gone through the information for the invoice, let's see what that document will look like. So you can go to the preview print email menu, select commercial invoice, and click preview. So just like Microsoft Word, you can always preview your documents and see what they'll look like before you print them out or email them.
Nice.
Here's the invoice that we just created. Yes, we got our contacts on the left, invoice and carrier details on the right. Our product information got formatted into this table here. My customs value only statement shows up here. Destination control statement shows up down here. Freight and handling fees, total cost in both currencies, Incoterms, and then I've put my electronic signature down here and my logo up at the top. But of course, if you were using the software yourself, you could use your own signatures and logos. And one thing to mention too is that it is very customizable. So like if you wanted to change exporter to shipper or seller or some other term, you could do that. Or if you wanted to change ultimate consignee to end user or buyer or purchaser, you can change these field labels,
Nice.
all these different field titles. You can customize those to whatever you want. You can toggle on or off certain information. So as you can see here, I've included the countries of origin as well as the export control classifications like the EAR 99, this USML code, etc. So you can choose whether or not you want to include that type of information. You can also adjust how many digits you need in your HS or Schedule B code. So it's very flexible. And the place where you do that kind of customization is on this Tools tab. You just open this little Customized Documents tree. And then if you click Commercial Invoice, as you can see, these are all the things you can toggle on or off. Date format, Schedule B digits, and then the field labels would be customized here. So like I customized the field for intermediate consignee and I called it notify party instead. That's what shows up on my document. So of course, also from the preview print email menu, you can print your documents and you can email them either to email addresses associated with the contacts on the shipment. They'll show up in this little menu here, or you can type or paste the email addresses you want to send them to here. And this is kind of the whole big list of all the documents you can create using Shipping Solutions. A lot of them are like kind of the same document, but like 5-6 different versions that you would need in certain situations. We have various different language forms as well, like the USMCA. We have English and French and Spanish versions. But yeah, if you want to make this a little easier to navigate, you can click this filter button, deselect all, and then select only what you need. So maybe all you typically need in the day-to-day is a generic certificate of origin, a commercial invoice, maybe a packing list, the shipment log, and the USMCA form.
Can we see
You just select those.
the Korean Foreign Trade Agreement? Can you select that one? I'd like to see what that looks like.
Sure. And I'll select them all again. And then if we go to Korea, Free Trade Agreement, here we go.
And so you just select those and that will populate the document needed and the format and plug in the information that's required for that document.
So for this document in particular, along with all the other free trade agreement certificates, basically you would go ahead and enter on these screens as usual, because the contacts and the product detail, that's going to show up on that document. But then the additional remaining information needed just for the free trade agreement certificates is going to be on this screen here, free trade agreements. So this is where you would
Okay.
indicate the importer, producer, certified by, and you can pull those from the contacts database as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a one-time certificate, you'd enter the date here. If it's a blanket date, you'd enter the date range here. Like if I click this importer button, it'll just bring up a contact screen, and I could just, select it from whatever database I want. It'll default to the miscellaneous contacts database, but if you needed to, you could select it from a different database. So, and that's kind of how it works. Like I said, these 5 screens here are the core information, and then after that, you would just pick and choose depending on what additional information you need to add for other situational documents. So the last core screen here is this EEI, or Electronic Export Information screen. This is just the remaining information needed to file through AES. So a shipment reference number, the date of export, the state of origin. You would check any of these boxes if they apply. This is the email address you want the response to be sent to after you submit your filing. And this AES ITN field, this is for storing your ITN code, which acts as your proof your filing was submitted. Otherwise, if you're claiming exemption from filing through AES, this is where you would put your exemption statement. Maybe for this example, we're shipping to Canada and we don't require a license, so I'm going to claim the Canada exemption. If you do need to authorize a forwarder or some other third party to file on your behalf, we do recommend you provide some kind of SLI form, and we do have that in a couple of different formats available. But if we go to this AES screen right here, now we can see how easy the software makes it to actually file through AES. So it tells you the steps to do it on the left-hand side. In the middle here, it's flagging what data we still need that we have failed to enter. Once you enter the required data, you would just click log in. And if you've ever filed yourself before, you'd recognize the screen. This is the same web portal you would access on the Customs and Border Protection website called the ACE portal. And so any company can create an account on the ACE portal, and then that would let you easily self-file through AES. And the advantage of this being built into Shipping Solutions is that if you were to log into your account and proceed past this screen, you would see that your whole filing actually got automatically generated for you. And the way it gets generated is just by pulling the data from these 5 core screens, which we've already gone through to prepare our paperwork. And if you're pulling it from your ERP, that's like skipping 2 steps right there, because most of the data is coming from your ERP. Fill in the gaps as needed in Shipping Solutions, which can be automated, and then that data gets all filled into your AES filing. I don't have an ACE account that I can demonstrate that with right now, but we have several videos on the website, including a webinar we co-hosted with another organization that walks through step-by-step how to do an AES filing. So if you need any of those resources, I'd be happy to send that to you. But any questions on that process, anything on these 5 core screens or that AES feature?
No, none that I can think of. I was just trying to see. It looks like we could almost book our cargo directly with the steamship line and not use a forwarder, but I don't know. I know you'd have to have a broker's license, but that would be easy to obtain.
Well, I know. I mean, most companies, of course, will hire some forwarding agent or forwarder to do that part of the process. But there's nothing wrong with acting as your own forwarder and booking space directly with carriers. I think there's probably a learning curve. I guess or I don't know. Maybe it might be some. It's something that there's nothing wrong with trying to do, but I've never done it myself, so. Yeah, but I guess this software wouldn't. The ability for this software to help you wouldn't rest on one way or the other as far as that goes. I think if you were to start kind of acting as your own forwarder and booking space with carriers directly rather than through an intermediary, maybe there's certain documents that you would then start to need more, like bills of lading. That's what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have the bill of lading. I mean, have you prepared a bill of lading in the past?
No, I have not. But I mean, we have to review the bill of ladings. We have to We have to communicate with the forwarder how to prepare the bill of lading, what information is needed, particularly if there's a letter of credit involved. So, and I know for the most part, most forwarders have direct connections with the steamship line via some portal of some kind, or they have a portal set up. So they're basically cutting house bills of ladings anyways.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking is, once you start acting as your own forwarder, then you might need to provide like at least a bill of lading template to the carrier, but they may have their own master bills of lading. I don't know, because then the distinction between house and master bill would kind of cease to exist in my mind, because there isn't a forwarder in the middle of the process. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm going all over the place with that now. So,
Oh no, so
but
I'm just thinking out loud. So go ahead, continue.
yeah, and I mean, in either scenario, you're going to have to prepare your own customs invoice. You're going to have to prepare your free trade agreement certificates and certificates of origin and your packing lists. And, I think either way, you'll still have that need for something to help with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the software. Went through databases, easy start. We touched on the shipment log and the AES feature. In our more advanced version, which is called Shipping Solutions Professional, as you can see here, we do also have this compliance module. So this is a suite of 3 compliance screening tools. There's a restricted party screening tool, which will screen all the U.S. government denied party lists to make sure you're not doing business with someone you're not supposed to. Export license determination will screen the classifications of your products against the destination country and tell you clearly if you need to apply for an export license, and if so, why and what exceptions are available. And then the document determination will give you guidelines to help you determine what documents you need. So do you have, yeah, go ahead.
No, so I was going to ask you with regards to the export license, are you running that through um, the business industry? Who is it? I can't think of the government arm.
BIS,
Yeah, BIS, yes.
Bureau of Industry and Security.
There you go.
Yeah, so the export license determination tool, it's purely based off how the regulations work. So in the U.S., we have what are called ECNs, export control numbers, and there's 2 types of ECN. There's ECCNs, which are the export control classification numbers. They're for dual-use products.
Mm-hmm.
Those are controlled by the Commerce Department under BIS, and those are for products that have a kind of commercial use, but have the potential to be applied for military use or part of a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And USML is the other category of export control numbers. The USML is specifically if it's under State Department jurisdiction, and typically that's things of military use or weapons. That's the basic distinction. But and of course it's more complicated than that when you really look at it. But that's basically how it is. It's either under commerce jurisdiction or state jurisdiction. The vast majority of things are under commerce jurisdiction and are controlled by BIS.
Right.
So what we're looking at here on the screen is the results we have for our license determination screening. So it's breaking it down per product. So in the blue is the product information and the black is the results. So this first product, I entered a USML category as the control number, and we see it successfully flagged that we need a State Department license under the International Traffic in Arms regulations. However, if you're shipping something under commerce jurisdiction, you're going to either have an ECCN or it's going to be EAR 99, and then it's going to give you the Commerce Department's logic behind license determinations for this. So do you have any prior experience using the Commerce Country Chart?
I do, and it's all on in a notebook that we have that we have to review based on where it's shipping from and where it's shipping to, and then we actually our manager runs that information through Department of Commerce to determine whether or not a license is needed. And then, we have to do some preliminary legwork in terms of getting a business license from the end user and then the intermediary. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, this tool, it's taking the exact same process as the Commerce Country chart. The lining the rows up with the columns and all that.
Yeah.
Taking that same process and it's just automating it. So what it's doing is it's just giving you the country and ECCN reasons for control, and then the license exceptions available for the country and the ECCN. So, each of these is a different reason you might need a license. NS is national security, RS is regional stability. And so what you want to do is just check if there's matches in these two categories.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a reason for control that shows up both for the country and for the ECCN, then it is controlled and requires a license. If you do determine that that there is a reason for control, then the next step would be to check the license exceptions. So again, just seeing if there's matches in these two categories. So LVS is a common exception that stands for low value shipment. Certain ECCNs have an LVS limit, and if LVS showed up in both of these categories, and we were, the value of the items on the shipment was less than that limit, then we could claim the LVS exception. So in this particular example, it's very simple because we have EAR 99 as the designation. So EAR 99 is just a catch-all designation that refers to anything under commerce jurisdiction that doesn't have an ECCN classification. So that's the majority of things are EAR 99.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have any reasons for control at the ECCN level. So we know we don't need a license from BIS for this product. So any questions on that process, on this license determination screening?
No. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far.
Great, glad to hear. I can show you these other two tools here quick, and then we can kind of wrap up. This is the last big piece I think is worth spending a little time on. So what I just did is I clicked restricted party screening and I clicked run compliance. So what this is doing is it's taking all the contacts that we've entered. So in the blue, you can see the exporter, consignee, bill to, all the contacts we have in the shipment. It'll just screen those automatically against all the different government denied party lists. And so it's giving us match scores. So 100% match will be an exact match on one of these lists. More likely, you're going to get matches in the 70s and 80s, that type of thing. And then it becomes important to really just evaluate the results. Sometimes it's going to be a very easy call. Like if I just look at this name match and compare it to what I've typed in, this looks very different. So I can rule that out as a match. But sometimes it's going to be more ambiguous. Like if you have a 96% match and it's the same name, but one letter is different or the address looks similar, then it can be a little trickier. And the key, I think, with denied party screening is just to make sure that you have an actual human being going in and evaluating these results on each shipment and then documenting it, which the software does for you. So you can print the results and keep them as physical records, but the software will automatically store it in this audit trail. And then the audit trail is just our history. It's like earlier I showed you the master record of all our shipments.
Uh-huh.
This is the same logic, but now it's the audit trail just for this shipment. So you can have that history and documentation of these screenings as well, and go back and view results from previous ones too. And then the final tool here is this document determination tool. So this is less hard and fast in the results it gives you compared to the license tool. This is more meant to give you guidelines as to what documents you need or may need, and then give you the context behind them so you can determine how to fulfill that requirement, if you need to fulfill it or not, that type of thing. So it's flagging it's flagging not only what we as the exporter have to provide, but also what our partners in the process have to provide. So we see in this export documents category, it's flagging an air waybill because the mode of transport is air, but the importer or the carrier typically needs to prepare that. Commercial invoice will always be flagged. You always need that. Confirmation of insurance, if there's insurance terms as part of the transaction. Packing list, some other documents we might need are commonly listed here, like the pro forma. And then the electronic export information just refers to your AES filing responsibility. Further down, we have line item documents. These are documents that we need for each product on the shipment, depending on its HS or ECN classification. And at the bottom, we have the import documents, which I think is the most helpful. This is actually showing us what documents we need to clear customs in the country we're shipping to. So in this case, we're shipping to Japan. So in other words, the country of import is Japan. So to clear Japanese customs, we have to provide 2 cargo documents, or rather the carrier has to provide 2 cargo documents. A certificate of origin is one that we, as the exporter, will have to provide. And then the import declaration will be the importer's responsibility. But we want to make sure we understand that requirement and understand what they need to do on their end to successfully clear customs. And in this case, Japan requires 3 copies, either in Japanese or English. So it would be good to have that heads up before the shipment arrives at the border. So do you think that these 3 compliance screening tools would have value for you as well?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. So that's really it. Otherwise, there's a few things here and there. Utilities, you can generate reports to keep an eye on trends. Tools we mentioned is where you can customize the documents. And then admin is where you'd set up the ERP integration if you're using that, and upload your signatures and logos and adjust user groups and things like that. I'll finish off by going back to the main menu. You can always see which version you're using right here. We're on version 9.16, which was a recent update to replace the old NAFTA form with the new USMCA forms. We have our phone number, email address, website, all listed right here. Very easy to get in touch with us. We really value being able to just, talk with you on the phone or do screen shares or, assist and provide technical support to make sure that the software is going to work well at your company and you're not going to have any issues. We really do pride ourselves on our technical support and our customer service. This Newsflashes box just posts links to new articles and updates, and also a link to our support page. So this is where you can download the user guides that explain every piece of the software. We also have video tutorials which explain the software. And then you would log into your annual maintenance program or AMP account on the support page as well. So any new purchase gets a 1-year subscription to the AMP. And what the AMP entitles you to is free software updates, free training, free tech support, and free access to the compliance module. After that first year goes by, it's optional to renew the AMP for another year for a reduced fee. If you don't renew it, you can still use the software. You just wouldn't get those AMP benefits, which of course part of that would mean, if you let your AMP lapse and then we release a software update, you wouldn't be able to download the update. So of course, if you plan to use it in the long term, we recommend staying on the maintenance plan. So what are your thoughts? I know you said this is looking like, definitely could be a valuable tool for you.